how y'all doing today? My name is Chiquita Nicole, and I am going to bring you some information about effective communication. So, I'm sure you're going to ask me, what is communication? That's a great question. There are several definitions for communication. It is the act or process of using words, sounds, behaviors to express or exchange information or express ideas, thoughts, feelings, etc. to someone else. But communication is more than just words. It also includes how you say it, which includes your tone of voice. It includes why you said it, which is your intention behind the message. It also includes when you say it. Are you having an argument? What time of day is it? It also is what you don't say, because sometimes silence can give a more clear picture than words will. It also includes body language, like me. I'm very expressive. I talk with my hands. So body language, facial expressions, gesture, and posture is all a part of communication. Now, there are some barriers to communication that I'm going to give you today, but I'm only going to just name 5 of them. So number 1 is judging the other person. If you're doing something like criticizing or diagnosing or calling the other person a name, that falls under the lines of judging them. Not paying attention to the person that you're talking to. This could be like watching TV while they're talking to you, playing on your phone or an electronic device. A lot of us are guilty of this. And looking away when the person is talking. That shows a sign that you're not really paying attention. Using technical language. I don't know if any of you have jobs where you use certain acronyms. I come from a military background and we have a lot of military acronyms, but I wouldn't go talk to someone using those same acronyms that wasn't in the military because they can't relate. So you need to make sure that when you're speaking to someone that you use information or verbiage that they can understand, and not just language or acronyms that only you can understand. Avoiding concern of others. You have to be careful with this because when you communicate, you need to take the other person's feelings into account. This can be done by diverting the conversation, reassuring the other person, or discounting the yeses and the buts. You want to make sure that you are avoiding or not avoiding concerns of others. Also, giving solutions or unwanted advice. Some people just want a listening ear. Not everyone that you communicate with is going to want to hear advice or have you judge them or give your input. Some people just want to listen. So it's important to establish that in the beginning to find out exactly what form of communication is best for that certain situation. Now, barriers to communication can sometimes have a negative effect when you try to communicate. So it's very important to exercise effective communication. And I'm going to give you about 9 examples of effective communication. Number 1 is going to be active listening. A lot of times when you listen to someone, people know that you're listening to them, especially when you're on the phone. If you say things like mm-hmm or yeah or I'm with you, just those small verbal cues to let them know that you're listening. Also, when you're in person, being alert, showing eye contact. That's a form of active listening. Nonverbal communication, I mentioned a little of this earlier, is body language. Making eye contact, paying attention, facial expressions, all those things fall into nonverbal communication. If you're frowning, it's going to be easily known that you may be upset. So you want to make sure that the nonverbal communication that you give off is what you want to be received. Another effective way to communicate is asking questions. If they say something and you just ask like a probing question just to let them know you're paying attention, like if you're talking about the sky is blue and, well, what type of blue is it? I mean, that's just a small example, but just to let you know exactly what that is. You want to make sure you're being clear. Make sure when you speak to someone that you're clear and concise and you speak with good etiquette and you articulate what you're trying to say. We mentioned earlier that a barrier can be using acronyms that no one understands or speaking in a language that no one understands but you. So you want to make sure that you're being clear. Number 5 is clarifying and summarizing. And this is very important with communication because you want to make sure that you are understanding the message that the other person is trying to relay to you. A lot of times we have our own perceptions of what someone is trying to relay, but that's not quite the message they were trying to give. So an example that I use is if someone is relaying information, I'll say, so what you're saying is this, and they'll let me know, yes, that's what I'm saying, or no, that's not what I'm saying, let me explain further. And that way you can make sure that you both are on the same page when it comes to what you're trying to say and the message or point that they're trying to relay. Make sure you're being empathetic. If you're talking to someone or someone's expressing or venting to you, make sure that you are being empathetic. Take into consideration their feelings, show that you're trying to understand what they're going through. That's very important as well. You may not necessarily all the time be able to relate to what they're saying, but being empathetic is like trying to put yourself where they are to understand what they're going through. Number 7, provide feedback. If they ask for feedback, an active way to show that you're listening is if you're able to provide feedback. If they ask you a question like, what do you think I should do? Or does that make sense? Or something that I say a lot is, am I tripping? So give feedback when you're talking to someone or when they're talking to you. Develop trust and rapport. This is a very important one, number 8. You have to make sure that you're able to develop trust and develop rapport. A person really isn't going to feel comfortable opening up to you or talking to you about anything if they don't trust you. And one good way to exercise this is by keeping your word, keeping your promises, doing the things that you say that you're going to do. And also exercising the things that are going to help show that you're trustworthy. And one thing that I teach my kids is integrity. Integrity is very important, and that's doing the right thing when no one is watching. So if someone can trust that you'll do the right thing even when no one's watching or anything like that, or tell their business, if you tell them something in confidence and you prove to them that that information isn't going to go anywhere, then they'll feel more comfortable opening up to you. And last but not least, being present. You will be surprised at how important being present is. That is like the number 1 most precious gift we can give anyone, because just being there when someone needs you, when you have a friend that you know is going to be there when you need a shoulder to cry on, that is very effective. So I hope that you have learned something from this topic of effective communication, and I hope that this will help you in future conversations. Remember, the 5 barriers to communication is 1, judging the other person, 2, not paying attention to the person you're talking to, 3, using technical language, 4, giving solutions or unwanted advice, and 5, avoiding the concern for others. You want to make sure you're not putting up barriers when you're communicating. And the 9 top effective communication tips that I've given is 1, active listening, 2, nonverbal communication, 3, asking questions, 4, being clear, 5, clarifying and summarizing, 6, being empathetic, 7, providing feedback, 8, developing trust and rapport, and 9, being present. I hope you all have a marvelous day. Let's do it, Clic for Girls.